අලුතෙන් SLT Mobitel Home 4G LTE connection ගන්නාට වටිනා tab computers සහ data දීමනා. අලුතෙන් SLT Mobitel Home 4G LTE connection ගන්නාට වටිනා tab computers සහ data දීමනා.
වැඩිම ආරක්ෂාව අඩුම මිලකට. කෙටයක් රුපියල් 54යි.
Tonight, opening salvo, the new central bank governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe cuts a defiant and confident figure at the monetary policy announcement.
I want to make it very clear, is, as I said, very independent central bank without any kind of external influence. The Monetary Law Act has given sufficient authority to exercise independence in policy making.
Taking names, the Samagi Janabalawegya begins collecting signatures for a no-confidence motion. Take it easy. The European Union issues a joint statement calling for restraint from all parties concerned. Lights on. The PUCSL announces a New Year respite from power cuts from the 13th to the 15th. All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9, this Friday, the 8th of April, 2022.
සුවඳ ජැස්මින් සහ විටමින් E සාරය සමගින් Navalax White.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Bringing you news from across the island, this is First at 9 and I'm David Ebert. The Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka at its meeting held today increased its standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate by a massive 700 basis points to 13.5% and 14.5% respectively. Speaking at the Monetary Board announcement today, Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe pledged to uphold the independence of the bank with no interference. The Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka at its meeting held today has decided to increase the standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate by a massive 700 points to 13.5% and 14.5% respectively, which will come into effect from today. In its rationale, the board explained that it had noted inflationary pressures that could further intensify in the period ahead, driven by the build-up of aggregate demand, domestic supply disruptions, exchange rate depreciation, and elevated prices. Based on this, it was of the view that a substantial policy response is imperative to arrest the build-up of added demand-driven inflationary pressures in the economy and preempt the escalation of adverse inflationary expectations. This would, it expects, provide the required impetus to stabilize the exchange rate and correct market anomalies observed in the interest rate structure. Speaking to the media for the first time today, new central bank governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe took a defiant and determined tone while offering a brutally honest take on the economy.
Also understand the situation. I don't want to have undue expectations. I have to tell you, irrespective of what we do, we can't turn it around overnight. So the example that I took in my address to the staff today is that it's like the economy is moving down a slope fast without any brake. So when the vehicle is moving down the slope without any brake, and when I jump into that vehicle, my immediate objective is to fix the brakes and slow down and stop it before it's going to crash. That is the immediate objective. It won't turn around immediately. Situation could worse further within next couple of weeks or months, but still turnaround will happen at some point. I'm very confident that we can turn it around. But the necessary condition for us to turn it around is not only the economic policies, but also there are other two key components. One is the political stability and social stability. That we have some challenges at this point. If that comes together, as I said, then we can turn this vehicle around fast and come back to a stable position up the hill.
Despite this, the question on the minds of most people right now is how is he going to do this? One factor remains extremely important, he says.
So here my objective is basically, I want to make it very clear, is, as I said, very independent central bank without any kind of external influence. The Monetary Law Act has given sufficient authority to exercise independence in policy making. That I am going to exercise that with the full support from the Monetary Board, including support from everyone else. This is for the betterment of the country, and the reason that I took the risk and came is mainly because I have experience what to do, and I have also connections and exposure not only for local central banking, but also my exposure to global with investors, IMF, World Bank, all these things. So basically, I think I'm trying to do my best to address this situation.
In the meantime, the central bank governor revealed some good news, namely that a new budget is to be introduced, which he says has been assured and will go to the cabinet for approval soon.
Got the commitment from the fiscal authorities through Secretary Treasury that they will also introduce a comprehensive policy package to supplement and stabilize the economy from the fiscal policy side. So that also will go to the cabinet pretty soon. And now everyone has recognized that this delaying and denying and not telling the truth is not going to work in this country. So we have to be truthful, we have to take strong actions, then that will deliver the results.
However, his immediate priority, he says, is expediting discussions with the International Monetary Fund to restructure our debt.
And also, there are some other positive developments that's happening parallelly to stabilize the situation. One is the technical negotiations with the IMF. We have already started, and even last week we had a couple of discussions with Mahinda Sirivardhana heading some technical discussion. Now I am going to continue at a faster pace from today onwards. Even tonight I am going to speak to the IMF staff, and I have a constant conversation and discussion with them. We will continue to do in a much faster pace. That is as a stronger commitment, and President himself given me the authority and also asked me to expedite two things. One is the negotiation with the IMF. Second one, debt restructuring process.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinha took up duties officially today after his appointment in front of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Newly appointed Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinha, officially assumed duties today after arriving in the country from Australia yesterday. Holding a PhD and a master's degree in economics from the Australian National University and a BSc degree from the University of California, Veerasinha has been a career central banker, having retired as Deputy Governor in October 2020. In addition, he was also an alternate director at the International Monetary Fund and sits on the advisory board of the Centre for Applied Macroeconomic Analysis at the Crawford School of Public Policy at the Australian National University. His appointment has been welcomed by the country's business sector, and he has been handed the responsibility of helping navigate the country's troubled economy through its current challenges. However, his main priority at present will be in reaching out to the International Monetary Fund in attempts to restructure the country's external debt. In a meeting with heads of banks today, Governor Veerasinha has pledged to take independent decisions going forward, move away from the current gazette culture, and listen to the market more when making decisions. Further, he has also requested banks to help in curbing non-essential imports. Now, the main opposition Samagi Jana Balawegaya launched a signature campaign to gain support for a no-confidence motion that is to be filed against the government today. The main opposition Samagi Jana Balawegaya commenced a campaign to collect signatures of parliamentarians with the intention of bringing in a no-confidence motion against the government in the House today. Samagi Jana Balawegaya parliamentarian Dr. Kavinda Jayawardena explained that an invitation has been issued to all 225 members to join the campaign and help bring about a new change.
මේ වර්තමාන රජයට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ බහුතරය අහිමි වෙලා තියෙනවා. රටේ ජනතාවගේ බහුතරය අහිමි වෙලා තියෙනවා. ජනතාව මේ ආණ්ඩුව කෙරෙහි දැඩි අප්‍රසාදයෙන් සිටින්නේ. එවන් මොහොතකදී විපක්ෂ හැටියට අපේ කාර්යභාරය තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩුව කරන කියන දේ පිළිබඳව රට දැනුවත් කිරීම. එහි විකල්පයක් හැටියට විශේෂයෙන්ම අද දිනේදී පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී අපි පැහැදිලි කරා මේ ආණ්ඩුවට තවදුරටත් මේ රජය කරගෙන යන්න හැකියාවක් නැහැ. පැහැදිලිවම රටේ ජනතාව කියා සිටිනවා. ගෝඨාභය මහත්තයාට මේ තනතුරෙන් ඉවත් වෙන්න කියලා. ඒ සඳහා විපක්ෂය හැටියට අපි දෝෂාභියෝගයක් ගෙනීම සඳහා පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුල අවශ්‍ය කරන පසුබිම නිර්මාණය කරලා තියෙනවා කියලා. සමස්ත පාර්ලිමේන්තුව 225ටම ආරාධනා කරලා තිබෙනවා. මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ප්‍රයෝජනයක් ගන්න මේ විශේෂයෙන්ම විවස්ථාදායකයට අවශ්‍ය කරන බලතල ලබා දීම සඳහා මේකට සහයෝගය ලබා දෙන්න මේත් එක්ක එකතු වෙන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම අපි පොදුවේ කරතිනවා.
කවදා වගේ වෙද්දිද මේක බාර දෙන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ?
අද දිනේ තමයි ආරම්භ කිරීමට අපි කටයුතු සකස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු හැම මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක්ටම අවකාශ අවස්ථාව ලබා දීම සඳහා කෙටි කාලයක් ගන්නවා.
Meanwhile, a proposal to establish an all-party interim government has been submitted to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa by the group of parliamentarians who left the government to remain independent. They point out that an environment should be created that would help calm the current public unrest, restore the lives of the people, and give them the opportunity to elect a government of their choice. Former President Maithripala Sirisena on behalf of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, former Minister Vasudeva Nanakkara on behalf of the 10 independent parties, and SLPP MPs Anura Priyadarshana Yapa and Vijayadasa Rajapaksa have signed the agreement. The letter to the President contains 11 proposals as an immediate step. The proposals include the establishment of a National Executive Council consisting of the political parties represented in Parliament, the maintenance of a limited number of ministries to run the interim government with their scope to be determined by the National Executive Council, the appointment of a new Prime Minister by the President on the instructions of the National Executive Council, the appointment of a limited cabinet and secretaries to ministries, ministers to function without receiving salaries, the ensuring of adequate and continuous supplies of medicines, essential foods, electricity, petroleum, gas, fertilizer, and other agricultural and industrial inputs, and the reimposition of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution with appropriate amendments. Now, the Jatika Jana Balawegaya calls for an interim reign after the resignation of the government, and it calls on it to provide relief measures to the public affected from the ongoing economic crisis. Issuing a special statement, its leader Anurakumara Dissanayake says that they have planned a series of mass protests in a bid to strengthen the public demonstrations against the government.
අද ආණ්ඩුව විසින් ගනු ලැබූ මෙවැනි වැරදි ආර්ථික ක්‍රියාමාර්ග මේ අර්බුදය තීව්‍ර කරා. මෙම අර්බුදය විසඳීම ඔහුගේ වගකීමක් බවත් මේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා තේරුම් ගත යුතුයි. ඔහු පෙන්눔 කරේ හිරි වැටුණු නායකයෙක්. ඇහෙන්නේ දැනෙන්නේ නැති අසංවේදී නායකයෙක්. ආණ්ඩුව අඩුම තරමේ මේ පාරට බෑලා කෑ ගහන ජනතාවගේ ඉල්ලීම් මොනවද කියන එකවත් තේරුම් ගන්න අසමත් වී තිබෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ආණ්ඩුවට විධිමත් වැඩපිළිවෙලක් නොමැති බව තමයි දැන් පෙන්눔 කරමින් තිබෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා ජාතික ජනබලවේගයේ විදියට මෙම අර්බුදයෙන් ගොඩ ඒම සඳහා නිශ්චිත සැලැස්මක් අපි ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. පළමු එක ජනාධිපතිවරයා මෙම දූරෙන් අයින් වෙන්න, දෙක මෙම පාලනය අයින් වෙන්න, තුන ජනතාවට අලුතෙන් අවස්ථාවක් ලබා දෙන්න, හතර ජනතාවට සහන ලබා දෙන්න, අන්න ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය වෙන අන්තර්කාලන පාලනයක් ගොඩනගන්න. ඒ නිසා ජනතාවට සහන ලබා දී හැකි අනතුරුව යම් කාලයකින් පසුව ජනතාවට නව ජනවරමක් සඳහා අවස්ථාව ලබා දීම සඳහා අන්තර්කාලන පාලනයක් ගොඩනැගිය යුතුයි. තවත් මේ ආණ්ඩුවට එරෙහිව තිබෙන උද්ඝෝෂණ තීව්‍ර කළ යුතුයි. කිසිසේත්ම නතර කළ යුතු නැහැ. ජාතික ජනබලවේගයේ විදියට මේ පොදු ජනතාව ගෙන යන මේ උද්ඝෝෂණයට අපි උපරිම සහාය ලබා දෙන ගමන් ඒ සඳහා අපි උපරිම මැදිහත් වීම ලබා දෙන ගමන් ඒ වගේම අපි ජාතික ජනබලවේගයේ විදියටත් විශාල උද්ඝෝෂණ මාලාවක් සූදානම් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
Now, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe called on Parliament to take control of public finances under Article 148 of the Constitution. In the meantime, Samagi Jan Balawegaya parliamentarian Eran Wickremaratne says that bridge financing is needed to end shortages of essential goods while the government is having negotiations with the IMF.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ වගකීමක් තියෙන 148 යටතේ මේ රජයේ මුදල් පොදු මුදල් පාලනය කරන්නේ අපි කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය නෙමෙයි. අපේ ස්ථාවර නියෝග හැටියට අපි එක කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට දුන්නා. ඒත් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය අසාර්ථක වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ තත්ත්වයට එන්න. එහෙනම් අපි ඒ බලතල මේ සභාවට ගන්න ඕනේ. කොහොමද ගන්නෙ? අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් අනික් පාර්ලිමේන්තු කරා වාගේ 148 යටතේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට පුළුවන් විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ රටේ තියෙන මුදල් පාලනය කරන යෝජනා ගේන්න. මම කියන්නේ ඒ අනුව 148 යටතේ Public Finance Resolution on Parliamentary Control of Public Finance. ඒක අනුව රීති හදලා ඒක කැඩුවොත් ඒ අදාළ අයට ක්‍රියා කරන්න. එතකොට දැන් තියෙන මුදල් රෙගුලාසි ඒකට යටත් වෙලා ක්‍රියා කරන්න තියෙන්නේ.
In the meantime, parliamentarian of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya Eran Wickremaratne expressed his views on what steps need to be taken while the government negotiates with the IMF.
ජාත්‍යන්තර අර්බුදය කතා කරන ගමන්ම අපි අපේ ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙලට යන්න ඕනේ. අපිට මං හිතන්නේ දේශපාලන ස්ථාවරභාවයක් තියෙනවා නම් ණය ගැන කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. ස්ටෑන්ඩ් ස්ටිල් එකක් ගැන කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. සති ගානකින් ඒක කරන්න වෙනවා. අපිට ඒක කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා. මොකද ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීමේ මුළු වැඩපිළිවෙල කරන්න මාස 4 5 6ක් යන්න පුළුවන් ඒක සිදු වෙන්න. දැන් ඕක කරන ගමන් බ්‍රිජිං ෆයිනෑන්ස් එකක් ඕනේ. මොකද බ්‍රිජිං ෆයිනෑන්ස් එකක් නැතුව තෙල් පොලිම නැති කරන්න, පෙට්‍රල් පොලිම නැති කරන්න, ගෑස් පොලිම නැති කරන්න, විදුලිය අඛණ්ඩව ලබා ගන්නට, අවශ්‍ය ඖෂධ ආහාර ලබා ගන්නට කිසිම විදියක් නැහැ බ්‍රිජිං ෆයිනෑන්ස් එකක් නැතුව. දැන් මම දන්නවා අපි අපිට සාකච්ඡා කරනකොට අපි ජාත්‍යන්තරවත් සාකච්ඡා කළා, රට තුලත් සාකච්ඡා කරන ගමන් අපිට ආසියානු සංවර්ධන බැංකුවෙන් යමක් ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන් ඉක්මනට, ලෝක බැංකුවෙන් යමක් ඉක්මනට ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන්, ජපානයෙන් යමක් ලබා ගන්නට පුළුවන්. අපි සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම සහාය දෙනවා මේ වලට. එක්ස්ටෙන්ඩඩ් ෆන්ඩ් ෆැසිලිටි එක නම් ටිකක් කල්යයි. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන් එකඟ වෙන්න. ඒතර ඒකෙන් ලැබෙන මුදල ලබා ගන්න. නමුත් නිලධාරි මට්ටමින් විතරක් ක්‍රියා කරන්නට බෑ. නිලධාරි මට්ටමින් විතරක් ක්‍රියා කළොත් ලැබෙන මුදල මදි. අද අපි ඇහුව ලෙබනනේ ගැන. ලෙබනනට බිලියන 3ක් දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒක මදි අපේ ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳ ගන්න. ඒ නිසා දේශපාලන දේශපාලන මට්ටමෙන් අපිට කතා කරන්නට වෙනවා. මේ අය එක විතරක් නෙමෙයි. මේ අයගේ එක්සිකියුටිව් කමිටිස් වල ඡන්ද තියෙන රටවල් එක කතා කරන්න වෙනවා. කතා කරලා දේශපාලන මට්ටමෙන් ඒ අයට කියන්න වෙනවා කරුණාකරලා නියෝජිතයන්ට කියන්න ලංකාවට සහාය දෙන්න. එතකොට තමයි අපිට පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ ඒ සීමාවල් වැඩි කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. බැංකු ක්ෂේත්‍රය ස්ථාවර කරන්නට ඕනේ. අපි බැංකු ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ බැංකු පද්ධතියේ නැවත ප්‍රාග්ධාරණීකරණය කිරීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙලකට යන්න ඕනේ සමාන්තරව. විශේෂයෙන්ම අපේ රජයේ බැංකු තුනක් තියෙනවා. තුනම අපි ආරක්ෂා කරන වැඩපිළිවෙලකට යන්න ඕනේ. ප්‍රාග්ධාරණීකරණය ගැන දැම්මම කතා කරන්න ඕනේ.
And with that, we'll be back with more local news right after this break. Stay with us.
Big 3.
The Sri Lanka Medical Association called for urgent solutions from the President to the ongoing drug shortage, as certain decisions made by hospitals such as halting routine operations can possibly result in serious consequences to the patients. They also say that patient deaths could also rise if emergency treatment is halted due to the drug shortage. According to the Secretary of the State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Saman Ratnayaka, the country is facing a shortage of 140 essential medicines and 2 life-saving drugs. The 2 life-saving drugs currently in short supply are streptokinase, used for the treatment of patients who suffered heart attacks, and the anti-rabies serum as well. Further, doctors say that they also lack essential drugs such as enalapril, amlodipine and labetalol to treat patients with high blood pressure. What's more, shortages are also being reported of drugs such as insulin, a virtual lifesaver for diabetes patients. With that being the case, hospital authorities are calling for an urgent solution from the Health Ministry to ensure that these essential medicines are supplied to them as soon as possible. Earlier this week, Dr. Ratnayaka revealed that they are currently unable to present a cabinet paper to request for 15 billion rupees from the Treasury to import essential drugs due to the absence of cabinet. In this backdrop, the Sri Lanka Medical Association has written to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa yesterday, calling for urgent corrective measures to deal with the crisis affecting the health and well-being of the people. Further, with decisions having been taken at certain hospitals to curtail some services such as routine surgeries, the SLMA says that this decision could lead to a life-threatening situation soon. If steps are not taken to ensure the supply of medicines, the SLMA says that emergency treatments will also not be possible and warns that this will ultimately result in a catastrophic death toll that could exceed the combined death toll from the pandemic, the tsunami and the civil war. The SLMA adds that it has initiated discussions with its members to stretch out existing stocks of medicines and consumables to make sure that whatever they have left could last for as long as possible. While stressing this matter as an urgent priority, the association has also urged the President to discuss this situation with his ministers, public officials such as secretaries to the Treasury and Health, as well as the Central Bank Governor to secure funds to fulfill the basic needs of hospitals and to support the ongoing national immunization program. The European Union delegation in Sri Lanka has called for restraint from all parties in Sri Lanka and for the government to fast-track International Monetary Fund talks to solve the country's economic crisis. The delegation of the European Union has issued a statement together with the diplomatic missions of the EU member states Germany, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Romania, and with the diplomatic missions of Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. The statement says that freedom of assembly and freedom of expression are pillars of any democratic society when they remain peaceful, and calls on all parties to continue acting with restraint. The end of the state of emergency it considers as a positive step. The statement also calls on all parties to explore constructive and democratic ways out of the current crisis that has taken its toll on the Sri Lankan people. It also stresses the extreme urgency of the situation, which requires the authorities to start in-depth discussions with the International Monetary Fund on the reforms needed to bring the Sri Lankan economy back to a sustainable path. In the meantime, several anti-government protests worked off in several areas of the island during the day. A protest march organized by Inter-University Students' Federation was worked off today, calling on the government to resolve the ongoing economic crisis. The protesters who entered Parliament entrance from the Poldua Junction then demonstrated near the entrance. A tense situation erupted as the students took away the barriers and attempted to enter the Parliament premises. However, the police later fired tear gas towards the protesters to prevent their entrance. Meanwhile, the Buddhist clergy held a silent protest near the Bihar Devi Park today. They call for an interim government to be appointed in a bid to resolve the economic crisis. The Jatika Janabalawegaya, meanwhile, held another protest today in the Panadura town. Meanwhile, several anti-government protests calling the president and the government to resign worked off during the day as well. Now, the Public Utilities Commission said today that there won't be any power cuts on the 13th, the 14th and the 15th of April due to the availability of fuel to generate power. PUCSL Chairman Janaka Ratnayaka also said the power cuts can be reduced in the days to come due to fuel availability and hydroelectricity generation following heavy rainfall. Yesterday, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation cleared a 37,500 metric ton diesel shipment that was anchored in Sri Lankan seas after paying a sum of $57 million. It took around 2 weeks for the CPC to secure the funds, with the country hampered by a dollar shortage. The unloading of the ship is expected to begin soon. Further, another shipment of 25,000 metric tons of furnace oil necessary to operate the country's thermal power plants has also arrived at the Colombo port today. With these developments, the Public Utilities Commission is confident of reducing the scheduled power cuts in the upcoming days. What's more, the Commission says that recent rainfall has given it a confidence boost, and it expects this to be a good sign for its hydropower generation capabilities. Speaking at a media briefing today, PUCSL Chairman Janaka Ratnayaka explained how power cuts will come about in the near future.
April 13th, 14th and 15th, there won't be any power cuts. And again, from next Monday, the power cut will be reduced to 4 hours. That is Monday and Tuesday. That is 11th and 12th. There will be only 4 hours power cut between 8:30 to 5:30, and from 5:30 to 10:45, only 4 hours power cut for both days of 11th and 12th. And again, the next weekend, we will be having only 2 hours power cut. That is between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
In the meantime, according to the latest PUCSL information, tomorrow and the day after, there will be only 2 hour and 1 hour power cuts respectively. More details on the schedule can be obtained on our website www.AdaDerana.lk. A protest organized by the Trade Union Coordinating Centre worked off today with the support of other trade unions. This comes following the launch of a token strike to object to the government. Public and semi-public sector employees launched an island-wide single-day token strike today in a bid to express their displeasure with the present government. With that being the case, the Trade Union Coordinating Centre has called on the public to avoid disappointment and stay away from state offices, with staff shortages expected as their workers will be joining a mass protest in Colombo. Further, the centre also issued a clarion call to all union leaders and members to join the protest as well. Hours later, the protest by public and semi-public sector employees went ahead at Lipton Circus with the support of trade unions such as the Government Nursing Officers Association. The call of the protesters is for the government and the president to resign due to their inability to handle the economic crisis. And that's all the news we have for you tonight. We hope you join us tomorrow again at the same time. Good night.